Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar presented by Portnox and Btech. My name is Mike Marvin, and I'm the Director of Marketing here at Portnox. Today, we'll be discussing how credit unions can secure remote network access and remain compliant with the NCUA's new ACET framework. I'm joined today by my colleague, Martin Ryan, who heads up operations here in the Americas, as well as by Lee Bird, President of Btech, a leading managed IT security services firm dedicated to credit unions. And finally, Josh Marshall from the University Federal Credit Union, a Portnox customer based in Salt Lake City, Utah. Just as a quick reminder, please feel free to ask questions in the chat window throughout the webinar. We will take time to respond to these questions at the end of the presentation. So without further ado, let's get started. First, we'll hear from Lee Bird. So Lee, take it away.
Thank you very much. Let me pull my screen up here real quick. All right. Excellent. Everybody see this okay? Thank you very much, Mike. Appreciate it. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Lee Bird. I am the owner and president of Btech. As Mike mentioned, we provide IT security services for credit unions, and really excited about our partnership with Portnox. It's been a good relationship so far, and feel like we've got a good presentation for you here today. So this first slide that I'm going to share with you, the rise of remote work. I cannot think of a title of a slide that's more relevant than today. Obviously, the last few months have been all about remote work for all of us, especially here in North America, across the world. But we've seen some pretty incredible challenges faced by credit unions. And I think what we're going to be able to show you today is a solution here with Portnox that's going to hopefully help you with security and kind of the challenges that you might have faced with all this new remote workers and people working from home. One of the things that I've learned from our credit union clients is that a lot of the managers and executives, C-level executives, have kind of made a decision recently that this is going to become, for lack of a better term, I hate it, but new normal. That many people, many departments, maybe most of the back office roles will now be remote. So we're going to have to sort of figure this out, and I think this is going to become sort of the new normal. 97% of office workers in North America have spent at least one day a week working from home since the pandemic started. That's an unbelievable statistic. Almost everybody. In fact, we have 2 credit union clients that are 100% virtual at this point. They've closed their branches. So this is definitely kind of the most relevant slide title I can ever think of. The impact on network security. So what we saw back in March is many IT departments provided their workforce with a laptop, or in some cases unplugged their desktop, handed it to the employee, and sent them home. Basically, really not much of a plan. It was, you've got to work from home. Go ahead and take off. Kind of the extent of the security that they would sort of look at for those remote workers might have been something like a VPN, and that was sort of it. I think many IT departments felt like, because they had provided the employee with that device, that maybe that was going to help them, sort of control the level of security. That was many months ago. So obviously now we've got to look at the security for those remote workers. The center statistic here is unbelievable. Remote desktop brute force attacks have grown by 400%. It's scary. Now with COVID, with remote workers, those are the targets. And as you can see, a lot of statistics are validating that. We've got enough time under our belt to sort of be able to see exactly where these threats are coming from now. And credit unions aren't immune. I'm a big fan of the USCERT.gov website. So this is CISA. They're a division of the Department of Homeland Security. And one of the things that they've pointed out is that most of the targets, the number one targeted industry is local municipal government. Number two is small to mid-sized financial institutions. That's credit unions. Most credit unions are going to be a primary target for threat actors. And if you haven't seen it yet, it's definitely out there. And here are some statistics. We're seeing it, through CUNA, Credit Union Times, definitely the COVID-19 has increased cybercrime. The other thing that we saw sort of at the beginning of this is that there probably was an increase in cyber awareness or cyber training for staff, for the employees that were working from home. That's important. That's critical. But if you're in IT, you need a tool or a resource, a way to sort of help you manage those endpoints, and that's what we're going to be able to demonstrate for you today with Portnox's network access control solution. And another kind of important part of all this is, as I sort of mentioned at the top, we work exclusively with credit unions. This summer, we assisted 3 different credit union clients with their NCUA audits, IT audits. The NCUA is still doing their IT audits through COVID. They're done through GoToMeeting, all virtually. And the ISOs, the information security officers with the NCUA, in all cases, really stressed the future of the NCUA's ACET workbook. This is their automated cybersecurity examination tool. If you haven't seen it yet, it replaced CAT, the FFIEC cybersecurity assessment tool. And this is sort of the future. This is what the NCUA's focus is going to be on as it relates to compliance. And specifically, something that Portnox and I have gone through and evaluated, over a third of the ACET framework is covered by network access control. So if there is a solution or a technology that is extremely relevant, network access control in a solution like Portnox is definitely super important. What does network access control look like for your credit union, and how would the NCUA sort of evaluate this? I think at the super high level, the NCUA sort of starts with a simple question or a statement, something like, would you get an alert, or would you know if somebody plugged a laptop or a computer into a network jack within the office environment? One of our presenters here today, Martin, will go more into this, but zero trust is sort of the opposite of the way that we've always done IT security. We've implemented technology and then turned the screws to make things more secure. With network access control, zero trust is definitely the primary focus here. But that ACET workbook, if you're not familiar with it, Google it, find it. It's by the end of 2021, I was told by those ISOs that they're expecting all credit unions, regardless of size, to meet baseline, which is the minimum requirement for that ACET workbook. So that's very, very important. With that, thank you for allowing me an opportunity to spend a couple of minutes here with you. I'm going to turn it over to Martin Ryan, and he's going to provide some insight on how the technology actually works. Martin, I'm going to stop sharing, and now it's your turn.
All right, Lee. Great. Appreciate it. Again, and from my end, welcome everyone. Appreciate you taking the time. Let me share my screen here. All right. I'm assuming we can all see it. So So what I'm going to take on from here is really specifically focusing on the remote workforce and that current, of course, immediate requirement. Understanding our solution can extend into the LAN as well. I would just make that statement, and anyone on the call that wants to learn more about that afterwards, you'll have my contact information. But so what does it mean, or what do we see being necessary as NCUA? For sure is going to start auditing and spending a little bit more attention on the remote workforce and how you can achieve compliance in that context. So for us, it's about taking your existing remote access structure, VPN, remote VDI, okay? So not changing that, but elevating that to what we'll call zero trust. I know zero trust is an often used word, and in these next couple of slides, I'm going to explain what that means to us, Portnox, or what we feel that should mean from specifically a remote access perspective. So the three items, the first one being continuous risk assessment. That device is no longer in your control. It's at home, wherever it's coming in from through your VPN or remote VDI. And so you need to have a way to continuously be aware of the risk posture of that device, not just when it's on the VPN or on the network, but anytime being aware of that, continuously being aware of that device while it's outside of your physical control. And to be aware is one thing, and it's a good thing, but also being able to use that awareness in order to maybe stop it from being able to connect. Stop it from being able to connect through the VPN. That it has the VPN client, it authenticates, it does everything, it's fine, except, hey, this device is part of my accounting group and hard drive encryption isn't enabled and the firewall's not on and antivirus isn't running, as an example. I don't want that joining through the VPN or the LAN as well. As I said, it can extend into that. So having that real-time awareness, and most importantly, being able to use it to actually prevent access if necessary, because it reached a block level from a risk perspective. Very important also is the ability for the user to be notified that that's happening, so they don't just think the VPN's down. So it's just not a slew of help desk calls. Oh, I can't get connected. Again, being able to have that interaction with that device so that they're aware that their access is being blocked for a specific reason. Another important piece of elevating your existing remote access to zero trust is being able to proactively take actions on that endpoint, right? Being able to take actions that almost help, think of it as keeping that endpoint at a baseline level of compliance. And again, because this is off your network, it's outside of your control. So I think of this as kind of a sleep at night factor, is that, hey, if they turn off the firewall, turn it back on. Don't, if antivirus is disabled, re-enable it. Those types of things. If someone in accounting isn't allowed, if you don't allow USB storage devices to be connected, not allowing that to be connected, even if they're at home connected to no network. So being able to proactively take preventative actions on the endpoint, real time and all the time, again, regardless of they're on or off the network. And then the third element of elevating your VPN to zero trust would be around and introducing multi-factor authentication. You may have that today, or again, if you don't, including that as part of your elevating your remote access to zero trust. So in the next slides, I'm going to speak to how Portnox specifically is able to deliver on these three items in a very efficient, cost-effective, and very quickly deployed solution. That is with our solution, again, called Portnox CLEAR, which provides what I'm about to cover from a zero trust perspective. And again, I'll state, can also extend this into the land, as people come back on as well. But Portnox CLEAR, first and foremost, it's delivered as a cloud service. So there's no on-prem elements that you're having to purchase, install, manage, keep updated, those types of things. You have multiple locations, no problem. It's all a cloud service. I should state up front, it is all SOC 2 Type 2 certified, which would be very important to certainly NCUA, and yourselves should be for yourselves as well. It's an extensive yearly certification. It's set up, you can set up in geo distribution. In one click, you have a Radius server that's set up with load balancing, real-time auto scale, so you never have to worry about the demands you may place on the service. All done as part of the service. No downtime on updates when it's updated. We had an update on Saturday. 100% of our customers running the latest and greatest service. You literally can have the service up and running, in minutes, and then a matter of setting a few configuration options and policies, and literally within hours, you can have this deployed, raising your remote access to zero trust. So once you stand up the service, there is an agent element. Again, these devices are not on the network. They're away from the network. They're at home. So, in order to have the visibility and awareness of the risk posture of the device, in order to be able to do real-time preventative actions, as I mentioned, requires an agent. So you can distribute that agent via GPO, Jamf, if you happen to be OSX based, self-onboarding, multiple ways in which to get that agent out. You then, within the service itself, you configure your risk-based access control policies. Again, saying, for example, if it's people from accounting, if someone in accounting, you want to make sure that hard drive encryption is enabled on that device, that the firewall's on, that antivirus is up and running, etc. And that's kind of part of what is required for them to be at a risk posture that it's acceptable for them to connect remotely. And so you set those policies as well as the remediation policies. And then you basically just configure your VPN or remote VDI via radius to point to the service. And so from that point forward, when a device, as it normally does today, connects to your VPN, it's going to check with CLEAR. CLEAR is going to understand the current risk of that device. It's going to compare it to the specific risk policy based on the CLEAR group that device is part of, and basically reply to allow or deny access through the VPN based on its current risk posture. We call it a risk score. So if it reaches a block level, it would be prevented. Again, important that if that did occur, the user would be notified again through the agent as to why they're being denied access. So they don't just think the VPN's down. They're not just creating unnecessary help desk calls. So that's what I have as an overview. I'll be back in a few moments to give kind of a demo, a quick demo, a use case demo. For now, I'd like to pass it to Josh Marshall from University Federal Credit Union to talk a little bit about their requirements and their actual deployment of CLEAR.
All right, thanks, Martin. Just sharing my screen. All right, we're based out of Salt Lake City. We have well over 100,000 members, 17 branches. We actually opened one a few weeks ago, and our actual branch manager was on a VPN for the first, I think about 3 or 4 weeks, because there's no branch for them yet. They were getting trained over VPN. Anyways, we have nearly 400 employees. Since COVID, we've actually added probably 20 or 30, and quite a few of those are remote. But COVID came around, we're forced to send people home. The funny thing is, we talked about ACET and the NCUA. NCUA was actually in our building when COVID happened. So we know what the ACET is, and it was funny that they had to vacate and everything started to try to go virtual as the start of things, but that's another story. But we started with a different VPN. We had no control over disconnecting them on an individual basis. Was off of a certificate, so we could revoke one, but revoke everyone. So that would not work. So we started looking at a different thing, and I think it was almost the last week of March, one of our vendors suggested Portnox. We tested it for a few days. I left on vacation, and a couple in my team took care of it all. So it was live, getting over 100 people out of their offices in less than a week. So, and most time was just setting up VPN and showing them how to use a VPN, clicking it, and how to use a headset and a soft phone. But it's been really nice having them managed remotely, because we've had a couple, someone leaves and we went and blocked their machine until they brought it back in. But yeah, all these remote, we onboarded them through group policy. It was at least the easiest for us. And even still now, we have about 100 or so out. And actually today I got another message, we're sending more people out, because in Salt Lake City, they changed the urgency, I guess. And now Salt Lake is the highest critical again. So we're having to send people out that did come back, and the people we hired, those who have been here long enough to go work from home. We did a test. I know you mentioned about the AV antivirus. We actually did a test to turn it off someone's. We didn't have it blocking it yet, but turned it off. They tried to connect, and it came back looking at the log that it was disabled. So it is pretty real time checking. We're going to look at the remediation stuff probably here in a little bit, and we're looking at wired ports. Wired ports on the ACET, they did talk about locking that down. And then jumping back up, the Wi-Fi, we used to have an internal radius server for execs and whoever on a laptop. Migrated that out to Portnox, so it uses all of that, and it seems like it's running a little bit better than the Microsoft Radius server was. So at least with less hiccups so far. And like I said, it's been great being able to monitor individuals. I had one person checking. I checked what they have installed on their machine, and went through when they installed it and kind of figuring out what's going on, and found out it was okay to have it on their machine. But I was able to find that all through Portnox. And the only reason I found that was I was watching logs as we were testing something, and it popped up saying it was installed. So, and I'll hand the reins back over to Martin.
All right, Josh, I appreciate that. Stop sharing. Okay. So what I'm going to do in the next couple of minutes, I'm going to actually share my screen and go through a kind of a recording of a demo of an actual VPN use case to give everybody a feeling for how it might look in in your real world. So let me share my screen again. Okay. And so here is again, it's a video recording of one of our solutions engineers doing this interactive demo. So this is their desktop, and what we're going to do here is they have CLEAR configured, but no policies or access configured yet for CLEAR, and they're going to connect as they normally do. In this case, through a WatchGuard Firebox SSL VPN, just to show how that normally occurs by putting in their credentials and password, and we see that they are in fact able to connect. I'm just sliding this to save time. They're able to connect to the VPN, no problem whatsoever. You'll see that within CLEAR, and I know we haven't gone through the GUI, and again, anyone on the call, you'll have my information. Want to go more one-on-one, we can do that. But you see everything's audited, so the fact that there was a valid VPN authentication is in fact audited and logged, and the SIM integration as well. And so what we're going to do now, though, is we're going to disconnect from the VPN, and we're going to take this device and we're going to put it under a risk policy, okay? And so by that, we're going to come in and we're going to go and you'll see this risk assessment policy. And this is the remote sales that this PC is part of. And we're going to set a risk policy on this device that for Windows, it's a Windows machine, that says antivirus has to be up and running, okay? And so you can see there's a variety of other checks you can do. We won't go in them for this. It's just for this demo purposes. So we're going to have it under a risk policy that says if antivirus is not up and running, I want to make that 100 risk element. And you can see at the top on that sliding scale bar that at 100, this device would reach what we consider a block level from a risk compliance perspective, okay? So we set that policy. And now what we're going to do is we are going to actually force this device to be not compliant against that policy we just created. So we're going to turn off antivirus, okay? We turn off antivirus. We see, of course, we get the Windows notification in the bottom right that antivirus was turned off. Very important, as I mentioned, the user also gets notification from Agent P that they've effectively reached a block level against policy. They can click the information button and get more details, so they understand that they've reached that block level. We can see again within the alert screen, and again this can go to the SIM, that that's in fact the case. But let's for a moment just assume that none of that was noticed, or the user ignores that and decides they're going to connect through the VPN anyways. Again, the exact same way they connected just a moment ago, connect to the VPN, but of course this time that is denied. Okay, that connection is denied, and it's denied because the request came to CLEAR. CLEAR evaluated that device against its risk policy. In this case, it reached a 100 because antivirus was out of date. Okay, again, they're notified again that they're not connected due to a risk policy violation. Okay? Again, they can go get more information about that through the agent as well. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to do something very interesting. Is we're going to put this device under a remediation policy. A remediation policy is where the agent will proactively take actions on that endpoint. Remember, that second part of elevating your remote access to zero trust. And so if we edit the remediation policy of this device is under, which is the remote sales remediation policy for Windows, and we're going to simply say, you know what, if antivirus is out of date, or antivirus is not started, start antivirus, okay? So we place that under there, we save that policy, and now you watch, you'll see antivirus just got turned back on. The agent turned antivirus back on. That policy was updated. The local agent, just re-enabled antivirus. And of course, as a result of it being compliant now, there's absolutely no problem with it connecting to the VPN. And you'll see again in the audit record that both the fact that it successful connection to the VPN, we also, of course, will audit the fact that there was that preventative action was executed. In this case, that the agent actually turned on antivirus. So I hope you find that informative. Again, we're available for more in-depth discussions. And with that, I am going to pass it back to Michael.
Thanks, Martin. So we're going to take a moment here for Q&A. Feel free to input questions in the chat widget, as you think of them. I will cover a few here. Martin, the first one for you. Is there any need to change your VPN or virtual desktop provider in order to implement CLEAR?
Yeah, no, that's the beauty of the solution is we're just going to overlay whatever you have pre-existing. We're just going to take that solution and elevate it to zero trust by introducing those three elements I mentioned: continuous risk, real-time remediation, and then optionally also being able to use us from the agent as a two-factor authentication, or if you have an existing 2FA, no problem. So no changes to the environment outside of pointing it to the CLEAR radius instance.
Great, thanks. Lee, one for you. What have been your clients' biggest challenges when it comes to complying with NCUA ACET Domain 3 requirements?
That's a good one. I would say, in general, just understanding what network access control is. I think that sort of the perception is that it's extremely expensive. I think most credit unions tend to sort of put it way down the list of technology that they're going to implement, maybe because of difficulty getting it implemented or cost. It's why we started working with Portnox. Portnox is an affordable solution, and also because it's cloud-based, it's pretty straightforward to implement. I know in the past we've looked at other solutions that required appliances and expensive licensing, but I think to answer your question in general, it's just sort of this, sort of for a lot of credit unions, kind of a difficulty of sort of wrapping their heads around what a NAC solution would look like in their environment. And I think what Martin just showed was pretty straightforward. It works extremely well and it's affordable.
Thanks, Lee. Josh, it looks like we have one here for you as well. I guess what influenced your decision to choose Portnox as your NAC provider?
So, like I said, a little bit with the our prior VPN, it was certificate based, and that's not so easy to create one for every individual person. One of our vendors that does contract work for us, they suggested Portnox, and as we looked at it, we went through some demos, and it actually met up with a lot of the NCUA audit stuff, and we're able to get it approved, not just for the VPN, but for the other things as well. So it was a vendor that suggested it.
Great. Thanks, Josh. And that concludes the questions, it looks like, that we have through from our attendees. So with that, I want to thank everybody for joining today. Thank you, Martin, Lee, and Josh, for your presentations, and really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.